The Translators to the Reader.
Part 5.
So that having the scriptures in one's own language is not a quaint idea recently thought up, whether by Lord Cromwell in England, or by Lord Radziwill in Poland, or by Lord Ungnadius in the Emperor's dominion, but it has been thought about and put into practice from antiquity, even from the earliest days of the conversion of any nation, probably because it was thought best to encourage faith to grow in men's hearts the sooner, and to enable them to say with the words of the psalm, "We had heard about it, and now we have seen it." Psalm 48.8. Our adversaries' unwillingness for the scriptures to be circulated in a common language, etc. Now the Church of Rome would seem finally to be showing a motherly affection towards her children by allowing them to have the scriptures in their mother tongue. But while it is a gift, it is not really a gift because it is a useless gift. They must first get a license in writing before they may use them. And to get that, they must demonstrate to their confessor that they are, if not frozen in the dregs, at least soured with the leaven of their superstition. But then, it seemed too much to Clement VIII that there should be any license granted to have them in the common language, and therefore he overrules and frustrates the grant of Pius IV. They are so afraid of the light of the scriptures, as Tertullian puts it, that they will not trust the people with it, not even when it is translated by their own loyal scholars, and not even with the license of their own bishops and inquisitors. They are so unwilling to open the scriptures to the people's understanding in any way that they are not ashamed to confess that we force them to translate it into English against their will. This seems to argue a bad cause or a bad conscience, or both. We know that it is not the person with good gold who is afraid to bring it to the touchstone, but the one that has the counterfeit. Nor is it the honest person that avoids the fight, but the evil, lest his deeds be exposed. John 3.20. It is not the straightforward merchant that is unwilling to have the weights or the measures examined, but the one who cheats. But let us overlook this fault and return to the matter of translation, the arguments of our brothers and of our adversaries against this work. Many have been arguing for a good while now and are still arguing about the translations so long underway, or rather reviews of translations made in the past. And they ask what is the reason or the necessity for all the effort. Has the church been deceived, they say, for so long? Has her unleavened bread been tainted with leaven, her silver with dross, her wine with water, her milk with lime? We had hoped that all was well, that the oracles of God had been given to us, and that although everyone else might have cause to be embarrassed or reason to complain, yet that we had none. Has the nurse held out her breast with nothing but wind in it? Has the bread delivered by the fathers of the church proved, in Seneca's words, to be nothing but stones? If this isn't handling the word of God deceitfully, as some of our brethren say, what is? We are told that the enemies of Judah and Jerusalem, like Sanballat in Nehemiah, mocked both the workers and their work, saying, "What are these weak Jews doing? Can they make solid stones again out of the burnt dust heaps? Even if they build a stone wall, a fox could go up and break it down." Nehemiah 4.3. Was the first translation good? Why mend it now? Was it not good? Then why was it foisted on the people? Or again, why did the Catholics, meaning Popish Romanists, consistently and confidently ignore it? Really, if it must be translated into English, Catholics are the most competent to do it. They have the scholarship, they know when a thing is good, and they know when to quit. We will answer them both briefly. To the former, who are brethren, we say with St. Jerome, do we condemn the earlier work? Not at all, but following the endeavors of those who were before us, we do the best we can in the house of God. He could as well have said, being inspired by the example of the scholars who lived before my time, I thought it my duty to test whether my linguistic skills might in any way be useful to God's church, that I might not seem to have studied the languages in vain, or to have given more credit to human scholars, however ancient, than they deserved. This would be St. Jerome's statement, a satisfaction to our brethren. And we would say the same, that far from condemning the work of any of our predecessors, whether here or abroad, whether in King Henry's time or King Edward's, if there was any translation or revision of a translation in his time, or Queen Elizabeth's of ever-renowned memory, We acknowledge that they were raised up by God to build up and equip His church, and that they should always be remembered by us and by our descendants. The opinion of Aristotle is true and familiar, that while we are indebted to Timotheus for much sweet music, we are indebted to Phrynis, Timotheus' master, for Timotheus. Therefore we should bless and honor the names of those who break the ice, and take the first steps towards something which promotes the saving of souls. And what can be more useful for this purpose than giving God's book to God's people in a language they can understand? As Ptolemy Philadelphus wrote to the Jewish leaders, according to Epiphanius, a hidden treasure or a sealed fountain is quite useless, and as St. Augustine says, anyone would rather be with his dog than with a stranger, who speaks a language he can't understand. In any event, nothing is begun and brought to perfection all at once, and later thoughts are considered to be the wiser. Therefore, if we build on the foundation laid by those who went before us, and profiting from their work we attempt to improve on what they did so well, certainly no one can reasonably disapprove, and we are persuaded that if they were alive, they themselves would thank us. The vintage of Abiezer was good, yet even the gleanings from Ephraim's vineyard were better. Judges 8.2. King Joash of Israel was not satisfied until he had struck the ground 3 times, and yet he offended the prophet for giving up then. 2 Kings 13.18-19. Aquila, whom we mentioned before, translated the Bible as carefully and as skillfully as he could, and yet he prudently went over it again, and his work became known among the Jews for its accuracy, as Jerome attests. How many books of profane learning have been revised over and over, by the same translators or by others? There are at least 6 or 7 different translations available of one and the same book of Aristotle's Ethics. The end of Part 5.